Now, just to begin with this, Tom and I have been reading about what's going on with China and technology for some time now. And a while back, I read a review of a book in the Wall Street Journal. This is the book here, Breakneck, Breakneck, China's Quest to Engineer the Future. And I read this review and I couldn't believe it. And I thought, this guy knows. He grew up in China. He's worked in Silicon Valley. He's been a reporter, etc. And of course, he knows the language. So I thought, I better get this book. Meanwhile, I didn't know that, but Tom sent me a copy of it. And a copy shows up in the mail from Tom. Thank you, Tom. And
you're welcome.
I had this incredible read. I mean, I've had stereotypes about China, about Chinese equipment, about the government, about all kinds of things. And this guy has really cleared up a lot and helped us a lot in putting this presentation together. So let's get right into some things right now. We want to begin by talking a little bit about how our stereotypes about China came about. And those stereotypes came about, Tom, in part because of our stereotypes about Japan when we were growing up in Chicago, right?
Sure. Right. It's back in the mid 60s, early 70s, while we were still operating American-made radios, along came the Japanese, kind of snuck in under the wire, I think. For example, Kenwood under the Trio brand snuck into like Lafayette Radio and Radio Shack and a few of the other smaller commercial enterprises, and kind of stuck their products in. And they started getting better and better. And Trio, for example, became Kenwood. And then you had Yaesu and ICOM, probably one or more that I'm forgetting. But the idea at the time was it's just Japanese junk. It's not made in America. There's making junk just like they're junky little toys, the little wind-up tin toys that you used to get, for 25 cents, and they'd last a week to spring and break, and, you throw it in the garbage or it rusted away in the sandbox, but over time,
there was a drugstore at the corner near where I lived in Chicago. And whenever I went in there with my mother, they had a toy department in the back. And my mom would always say, don't buy it if it's made in Japan.
Right.
That's probably junk. And that was my whole attitude as a kid. And I kept that growing up for a long time.
Right. And we had a little store just around the block for where I lived. It was like a small wholesale place. And my mom used to call it the Japanese junk store. But it's true. The products that came out after, shortly after World War II were basically tin toys, and, actually they were junk. But as far as amateur radio goes, they, like I say, they kind of snuck their product in under the wire, barely noticeable. And
they started doing the same quality.
And their quality just started improving and improving and improving. And today you look at, Collins has gone completely commercial and military. There is no more Hallicrafters. There is no more National. And I see a pop up here, the National Radio Company started making toys, not radios.
Yeah, that's
and I've had a few of their radios, and they weren't too far out of the spectrum of being toys either.
Yeah.
But
hey, let me read one chapter from Breakneck here about this. And by the way, this book has gotten phenomenal reviews. Even some people saying it's the best book of the year. We'll try to put a link down below.
Yeah, it's required reading.
Yeah, here's one paragraph from the book. Chinese brands are not only making many of the lowest end consumer goods, the junk found on e-commerce apps, but also higher end kitchen products and audio equipment. It's fair to say, however, that although Chinese workers make so much of this stuff, few Chinese companies have established striking global brands, okay? they're far behind Japanese companies, which starting in the 1970s created whole new categories of products like music players. Here, we're thinking of Sony and everything, game consoles, digital cameras, pocket calculators that excited global consumers. For the most part, Chinese successes involve making good products cheaply. But I think it's likely to say, listen to this, gang, that they will be known for great products too. Branding tends to follow good quality, and I expect Chinese brands to be well regarded over the next decade, just as the perception of made in Japan flipped from shoddy to valuable. So that's what he thinks is going to be happening. And of course, this would suggest that this is going to be happening with ham gear as well. Now, let's get into this a little bit more as we move ahead here with this, Tom. I want to go through a couple of items in the PowerPoint. Here's the book, Breakneck. It's by Dan Wang, an Engineering Society, is what he uses. He uses this term to talk about China. Now, when we think of China, at least in the West, the free West here, we think of it in terms of its government, its repressiveness, its lack of flexibility, and so on. But what Wang shows is that, in a sense, the underlying ethos or the branding that China has about itself really has to do with considering itself as an engineering society. They're all about engineering. Now, of course, they want to engineer social stuff too, like how many babies you can have and this and that. But and he's got a chapter on this, which is fascinating, how they try to socially engineer things. But when it comes to electronics, the engineering of it, the design of it, the production of it and all, they are moving full bore with this. It's really quite remarkable. And the primary area this is happening, and my son told me about this 10 years ago when he was in China doing some work over there on internet-related stuff. And he said, Dad, you got to get to this Shenzhen region or city. And the guy in the book here talks a lot about this. In Wikipedia, they say, and now Wikipedia is not 100% accurate, but I think this paragraph is okay. This city's a global technology hub. In the media, Shenzhen is sometimes called China's Silicon Valley. The city's entrepreneurial, innovative, and competitive-based culture has resulted in the city being home to numerous small manufacturers and software companies. Several of these firms have become large technology corporations, such as, how do you pronounce that, Tom? Huawei, Tencent, DJI, and Oppo. Now, just for tonight, I wore my DJI microphone. Okay. The DJI drones that many of us own have been temporarily halted from production or distribution into the U.S. And they were the top really in drones, I think, in terms of quality. So what's going on here is that kind of flip, okay, that Dan Wang talks about into quality that we have to consider, okay? And Tom, they've been testing and talking. We've been testing and Chinese equipment and talking with people who use Chinese equipment for the last couple of years ourselves. And this is the first time we really come, I guess, out of the closet, you'd say, where
we actually admit it.
Where we actually admit that there's some stuff going on here that we're going to have to take account of, and so are the Japanese manufacturers. Tom, tell us a little bit about what's going on with right now, as you see it, with the quality of the products coming out of China for hammering.
Okay. Well, to start off, the three major manufacturers of Japanese equipment that we're aware of is ICOM, Kenwood, and Yaesu. Out of those three, there's only one of those manufacturers that's actually manufactured in Japan, and that's ICOM. Kenwood and Yaesu farm their products out to Vietnam, the Philippines, and China. So think about that when you're slamming a Chinese product as opposed to a Japanese product. And we've tested, I'm into Pofungs because they're cheap. I can buy one, I can test it, I can take a mallet to it, I can bust it up into little pieces and not cry about it. And in the early, I would say the UV5s, the walkie-talkies, yeah, they had spurs all over the place. They were wide. They were all over the place, but they were functional.
Now you tested the Mini recently.
I just tested the Minis, which come in both ham radio and certified, FCC certified GMRS versions. And I put them on my spectrum analyzer, and they were as clean as just about any other Kenwood, ICOM, Yaesu HT that I've ever tested. The third order spurs were way down, 35 to 40, 50 dB below the floor. So they're getting better.
Yeah,
and they keep progressing.
On that, by the way, gang. So take a look at the video that we just did, testing out those minis, and see what you think in terms of the quality, even the overall construction of it, the feel of it.
A comment here from Adam there. ICOM also outsources some of their parts to China, and I agree with you. Yes, they do. But their manufacturing is still in-house in Japan, as is their quality control. So if you look at the back of on an ICOM radio, the fan, it says made in Japan. But yes, some of the componentry is indeed made in China, but overall the assembly and quality control testing is a product of Japan. So carry on, Quinn.
Yeah, and so Tom, you did some fascinating research on this because there are all these brand names that are from China now, ham gear. And half the time I don't know how to pronounce them, or you correct me because you do the research on it. Po Feng. Is that right?
Po Feng. Like Po folks.
Yeah, Po Feng for
well there, if you've got that one PowerPoint, Quinn, there's only about 2 or 3 actual manufacturers, and they cross-pollinate themselves across many different brand names and versions of the same radio. So and it's quite interesting.
We're going to blow your mind on this. I hope you can see this. I'll make it as large as I can on here and blow up your screen. Tom, why don't you take Adam's note off there so we're not...
okay, I'll hide it.
There you go. So take a look at this. Now we're going to run down some of these. And it says here, you see on the top left there, manufacturers own radios, designs own radios, rebrands, uses ODM models, and then some other notes. And we start going down through these different brands here to take a look at what's going on. One that Tom and I have been testing lately that doesn't make their own stuff, at least yet, is Radiodity. And so they're getting them from other companies and then rebranding them. But this is the beginning. This is the first part of it with a few of the companies. Here's the next one. You see Anytone there, QIT, Samcom, and so on. And you look through these and you see on the left column here some of those that are not producing their own, and then the different branding that's going on. And it says on the right, like marketed for business and GMRS use. Then it says resells various brands under its label. Many models identical to others. And oh man, this isn't the end of it. Here's another one. This continues it here from what's that first one? Loiton, I guess, or something like that. B-Tech, JJCC, Puxing, Leixen, FDC. I don't know, Tom. This is confusing. You know, I'd like to have like 3 manufacturers and be able to compare their quality. You don't know who you're getting the radio from, really, when it comes right down to this. And here are a couple more from Hesonate or Hesonate or whatever, and Radtel. That's got a kind of English ring to it. Now, these are from the website you see on the bottom, so you can go down there. It's just besthamradio.com, besthamradio.com. And they've got this one thing on the best and the worst handheld radio brands. But notice what he says by conclusion here. He says, I hope this has helped you understand the ham radio landscape, both currently and historically. Remember, there is no such thing as a bad radio as long as it's legal and it does what you need it to do. Knowing who makes what for who may help you get a better deal and know where to go if you need support. Now, the support thing, of course, Tom, is crucial because you and I have, with some of these Chinese radios, tried to get support.
Right.
But let me say, I own ICOM. I've owned practically every brand there is. And I have some Elecraft over here. Their support is fantastic. Can be a little slow, but it's fantastic. When you've got a Kenwood or ICOM, you need some support, and you got to mail the rig in and all, it's going to take a while. And you might not be able to get a response from them right away. And typically there's a form that you fill out, you send in for service, and then you wait and hope to see what's going to happen. So you and I have been putting Radio Oddity as one of these companies on the spot lately and telling them about some issues we're having or asking them questions. And the support has been phenomenal. Even though they don't manufacture their own equipment as of now, according to this website, they're right back, usually within an hour on email. And if you got a rig problem, they generally don't say, well, it's going to take a long time, or maybe we'll send you a part or whatever. They usually will send you a new one right away, and then say, send me the old one when you get it. So if the Chinese companies take that kind of attitude towards service, it's going to be quite a competitive marketplace, I think. Tom, what do you think?
Right. Well, we've been working with Radiodity for a while, and one of the reasons is number one that's impressive is their customer service, and the other thing is they are trying to develop their market with these Chinese manufacturers to bring in more supported and quite a kind of Americanized equipment that we're used to Western tastes. So I had an experience with them a couple of weeks ago. They lost one of my shipments. They took it upon themselves to track down the shipment, found out it was lost, and within 2 days I had a replacement radio. So the reason we're working with them is because of the customer service aspect, which is lacking in most of the other imports. And on the record, I've had some dealings with Kenwood that were absolutely atrocious. And that was a new radio. The dealer wouldn't take it back under warranty to work on it. I had to send it off to Virginia Beach, Virginia to have it worked on. It took about 6 weeks to get the radio back. And within a couple of years, it crapped out again. So it's like gone. The other company we had, the American, was Tentec. Now, they had a very good product, a very supported product. And I don't know the whole story with Tentec, but, all of a sudden they went out of business and disappeared. I don't know if it was because they weren't supported by the ham community or was it some internal management problem. But Tentec, to me, had built a piece of equipment that was far surpassed anything that was made in Japan at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, and of course, I like Elecraft. I have a few different pieces of Elecraft equipment over here. Their service is terrific too, but it's pricey. So it will be interesting to see what happens if the Chinese manufacturers try to come in with equipment that is the same quality of Elecraft, but let's say half the price.
Right.
With good support. I don't know if they can do it or not. We're not predicting on all of this, but it is rather interesting. Now, I put an email address up on the page here, and what we would like to do, since this will be interactive, is if any of you out there watching right now would like to join us with audio and video, so you're going to appear on the screen here too, send me an email right now at Ham Radio Perspectives, and I will send you back a code you can use to click on that will take you right to what we call a studio down below that you can't quite see, but and then it gives us the ability to add you to the stream. So, Tom, anything else that you want to say or questions you want to ask people to start commenting either in the comments or in anything else?
Me personally, no, I'm just waiting for the comments to roll in, and I'll address them as they show up.
Yeah.
But I think the point of all this is saying that within 10 years, Chinese amateur radio products are going to be head to head as good quality wise as anything we currently have out of Japan, and possibly even better because of the rapid technology advances.
Yeah, it's possible, though, that the current manufacturers, the big ones, will also want to upgrade. We've tested a few of the antennas out there, too, and that are quite cheap. Maybe you've seen some of those that we've done and compared them to some of our own homebrew antennas and the like, and we've been impressed with those as well. I had one other thing I wanted to read real quick before John comes in. It seems China does not innovate, they just copy. There's a good point.
Right. And one of the things, they don't necessarily copy. In the manufacturing world, if a Western company wants to have their products manufactured in a Chinese facility, the Chinese government expects that company to share their existing technology before they're approved to build a plant or work with a Chinese company developing additional product. So it's not a matter of just copying. Semantically, yes, it's copying. It's not stealing. But the curious thing about the Chinese is if you read the book, if they are aware of a technology that they cannot get their hands on, they will take it upon themselves to develop a parallel technology. It may not be quite as advanced as what's currently in the West, but they see that it's advantageous to have that technology, and they'll go out on their own to develop it. So, yes and no. Yes, they copy. No, they don't steal, but they do innovate.
Yeah, let me take a little different take on that, Tom. After reading Wang's book, you know, you can patent a circuit. A patent is basically the application of an idea. What happens is, as you said, they want to compete in certain areas. And so they get a lot of people together quickly and say, hey, this is the competition. What can we learn from what they've done? Can we pull it apart? Can we re-engineer it? If it's software that they can unscramble, they might rip off some of the software. Maybe rip off is too strong a term, but I don't think it is. I want to read from Wang's book about this, how quickly they're able to do this. He says, this is about the district that we were talking about, the Shenzhen district. He says, virtually everything one needs to produce any electronic product can be found in the short drive around that city. Proximity creates efficiency. When it's time to do stuff, a company can collapse coordination that usually takes weeks into a business meeting lasting hours by convening all the relevant suppliers in one room the next morning. Now, can you imagine that? You've got an idea and you contact a bunch of people and you say, tomorrow morning, be here, and we're going to start engineering and designing it. Amazing. Hey, John, welcome.
Hi, John.
Hey, how are you?
Mm.
Hey, John, where do you live?
I live in Denellen, Florida. Okay, there's an echo. I live in Denellen, Florida,
Yeah.
southwest of Ocala.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I want to visit you down there sometime. And What have you been up to lately with some of the Chinese equipment?
The only thing I can share with you guys that I've been doing, and I'll try to bring this over here. I bought one of these little Chinese SDRs. I don't know how well you can see it. I can unplug it, but this is the one that is very popular. I'm using it for a 10-meter beacon, so it's a watt and a half. Have you seen this one? They don't have any trade name on it. I could try to bring it closer. Yeah. Anyways, here's what it is. Yeah.
And it has no brand name on it.
That's correct. In fact, I sent you an email.
Right. Yeah, I saw the email, and it has no brand name. Does it say even where it's manufactured?
It's got to be made in China.
Yeah, it's a clone of somebody's software, and I contacted them in the United States, and they said, John, these guys just stole my stuff and started producing it.
Wow. So you're running that. What did you pay for it?
$150 on eBay.
And you've got it set up with what kind of antenna for a 10-meter beacon?
3-element stereo monoband beam at 32 feet. And I'm amazing that Tom could hear it ground wave off the back end of the beam.
Yeah, you guys are about 135 miles apart. And today, Tom, you said during the day you were hearing the beacon.
Right. When we were chatting with John earlier today and he had mentioned his beacon, I had my 10-meter radio on and dialed into that frequency. And sure enough, I could hear it.
Yeah, it's on 28.288.4. 28.288.4.
Do you own any other Chinese equipment?
Oh, gee, let me think. Yeah, Zigu G90.
What do you think?
It's wonderful. The thing has a better tuner than the ICOM 7300. I take that on vacation, and you could load up the bed springs, and you could work DX.
Antenna tuner.
Yeah. And I understand the audio. I understand the audio on that is superb also.
It's very good.
Here's a comment from our buddy TF. He says the biggest issue I have with Chinese manufacturers is the wide range of quality. Amen. Look at all of the different drones and all. Yeah, some of these drones that they sell, especially on Amazon, are pure crap. In fact, my grandson and I bought one, and we started to have a ball with it. And I said, "Hey, let me try that. I think you're getting too far away." And I grabbed the controls, and that sucker took off anyway. And it is now flying between here and Florida. It was it was supposed to come back home if it got too far away, so it didn't work properly. Okay, talking about Collins here from Adam. As you speak of Collins, they were ahead of their time, and sadly they're gone. Yeah, one of the great things about Collins was they got military money, and they made this fantastic equipment. I mean, Tom and I have a video on the best designed rigs of all time and the worst design, not just engineering design, but the aesthetics. And Collins is right at the top. What they did, spectacular.
I think they defined what an amateur radio should look like from the was the S line?
Yeah, the S line.
Where they came out. Yeah, the S line. From that point on, it defined what an amateur radio HF rig looked like. Everybody else copied it.
Okay, 73, everybody. This will be posted on YouTube if you want to see it again or lead anybody else to it. We really appreciate you coming in and making some great comments. Very good session tonight. 73 from Ham Radio Perspective.